In my honest opinion, I think Hedera Hashgraph is well and truly undervalued at only about 6.5 cents right now. So guys, look, if you're looking into this project, especially for 2025, you need to listen to this video because I'm going to hit you with some key points and topics you should at least be looking out for. And obviously know if you're investing in Hedera Hashgraph, because guess what? I think this is a player for the long run. And honestly, 2025, I think the true value of Hedera should definitely at least be on its way to actually coming into fruition. Okay, so what the hell is Hedera Hashgraph? Well, Hedera Hashgraph is a different type of, you could call blockchain. It actually operates a little bit differently to a blockchain we all know Bitcoin or Ethereum to use. It's called a hash graph, okay, and it's pretty much the way transactions are ordered and processed, which pretty much allows for Hashgraph to operate at speeds in excess of eventually 10,000 TPS. Right now, it's about 500 or so steady, but it does have the capacity to go up to 10,000 TPS. And with a new and improved sort of protocol, which is coming into the distant future, called sharding, where the Hashgraph will actually be broken up into different parts, it will allow this speed to literally go well and truly above 100,000, 1 million, and possibly even, depending on how it's implemented, just an infinite number of transactions per second. Not to mention, the security of a hash graph is extremely high. It's asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, which pretty much just means it's the highest level of ABFT, or BFT should I say, that you can possibly get. Literally meaning that the network can continue running if about 2/3 of the network are malicious, okay, actively trying to take it down. Not to mention, it's gossip about gossip protocol, which kind of runs within the hash graph itself, allow this thing called fair ordering of transactions, meaning that when I make a transaction, if I make that transaction before you, I can at least guarantee that it's going to actually be processed before yours. Unlike blockchains we see nowadays, I can make a transaction, and if you have enough money, you can do what's called front running, which means pay a bit more gas, and your transaction can be processed faster because the miners go, oh, this guy's got more money to give us to process his transaction. We're going to take that, process it, and then get to Chiron later on. And that's especially bad when you're playing games, especially MMO games, where it's very important. If I kill you first or I shoot you first, I shouldn't use the K word, and you say you try to front run me and say, no, I shot Chiron first, you can't do that. Fair ordering of transactions allows me to actually, as the name suggests, it's a fair order of the transactions, okay? So that's especially important for games, and that's why Hedera's ecosystem is flourishing with games, and we're going to talk about that very, very briefly in just a second, okay? So with all that said, it's important to recognize that Hedera is also carbon negative, meaning that any carbon it does produce, it's not only, grabbing that and saying we're going to actually eliminate that, but we're going to actually go one step further and actually give back, okay? So they do that with carbon credits. What do I personally think of carbon credits? I don't like them, okay? I think carbon credits is just a way that the big elites, the enterprises can pretty much say, hey, we're doing a good thing for the environment. We're just spending our unlimited amount of money buying these carbon credits, but that's a conversation for a whole different video. Either way, Hedera is playing it by the book regardless, the current book that is carbon credits, so they're doing a good job, okay? Now, what about the governance structure? It's a little bit different than most other protocols. Hedera operates with a governing council of currently 27, you could call Fortune 500 companies, or large enterprises in their own respective regions that hold a lot of weight in their industry, okay? So we're talking about names literally like Boeing, IBM, LG, other sort of companies in that realm, okay? So Google's another one. You guys can get the idea, okay? So essentially what happens is any HIPs or Hedera Improvement Protocol procedures that kind of go through, or proposals should I say, that go through into the governing council, they actually put the final stamp of approval on these HIPs, okay, or these HIPs. Now, these HIPs can come from the community, so it's actually happened a fair few times now, especially with staking, which is quite important on Hedera. And the governing councils comes together and with equal votes, and they say, is this a yay or is it a nay, or should we put it back to the drawing board and see what else we can come up with, okay? Either way, anything that happens on the network happens through the governing council. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Chiron, they're big names, sure, but it's quite centralized, no? And honestly, that kind of thought process is correct. I'm not going to argue that. But what I would argue is take a look at other protocols. Most protocols work on this governance structure where the more tokens you hold or stake, the more voting power or the stronger voting power you have, okay? And that also, introduces centralization, in my opinion. The big difference is when you're giving 27 governing council members, and eventually it will be a maximum of 39, this sort of power, you're not only restricting that to one person, one inexperienced person, because let's face it, the people normally holding all these tokens and other protocols are typically people that got lucky in crypto, probably 18 years old, right? Doesn't know any better. Or would you rather give that to a select number, 27 governing council members, who aren't making a decision from one person or one inexperienced person? It's many, many people from backgrounds that have been working in some of the best, if not the best companies in their respective fields for many, many years, if not decades. It is day and night, guys. I think sometimes we get caught up in this whole concept of decentralization and try to structure the word decentralization so much, we forget that we're not quite there yet. There's stepping stones to take, and being in crypto for so long, you tend to forget that we're early, and when you're early in anything, it's never at the end goal just yet, okay? So that's where Hedera is. I believe the governing council is going to be here no matter what, okay, in perpetuity, but that's fine. That is fine, okay? I guess some people won't agree with me on that, and that's okay. Not to mention there is 8 board of directors. Now, there's 1 non-voting, so there's 7 voting board of directors that also are elected by the governing council that kind of manage the front-facing side of Hedera. That's employing people, firing people, managing people, and that's also being that point of contact for the community, okay? It's just like any business. You have a board of directors, and that's who they are. You can kind of view it as the governing council are kind of like above them. They're the real, true movers of Hedera, okay? And it's good to see that Lehman and the co-founder of Hedera also taking a step back from that position, and you could say further decentralizing the protocol in that sense, okay? So what about the ecosystem? Well, the ecosystem is quite strong on Hedera. I must admit, they're really transparent. They've broken down the different sections. They've got Web3 dApps, they've got enterprise applications, and they're really, really transparent. That's the one thing I love about Hedera, is they're very transparent with everything. Just touching base really quickly on that, even the board of directors, any meeting minutes regarding the governing council, anything that happens on the network, it is posted on their website. We can see it. We can see what's happening. That's the beauty of it, okay? It's just like any other, decentralized governance structure. Instead of reading the code or reading something that's put through Discord or a blog, it's all on the website in the meeting minutes. It's verifiable, okay, which is awesome. Not to mention the Hashgraph itself is now open source, okay? Anyway, I'm kind of getting off track already. The ecosystem is great because it's all broken into tiers. The enterprise applications themselves are awesome. It's a flourishing ecosystem itself. Enterprise applications is pretty much, other big businesses kind of leveraging the Hashgraph itself for, almost a software as a service, or building on the network to, run applications through. Then there's some big names as well. There's some really awesome applications that are being built using, Hedera already, and sharding hasn't even been implemented, meaning the network isn't even in its full form yet, okay? And it's also permissioned, not permissionless. It is public, of course. Now, I want to also mention how I touched on basically the MMO games and games in general. Because of the fair ordering of transactions, Hedera is kind of one step ahead of other protocols or layer 1 protocols, in the sense that they have a strong ecosystem of games and some great partnerships already. One was with Ubisoft, in regards to actually creating these really, AAA class MMO games, which is, some other protocols are doing that, but because of this fair ordering of transactions, because of the way that the gossip about gossip works, okay, they can do this, and now, okay, early, which is awesome to see. So before I touch on my price prediction, I want to just say for the record, look, Hedera is, I review projects all day, every day, and I want to say for the record, Hedera has one of the cleanest UX and UIs out there, okay? It's super, super transparent. You can find everything. I just love when things are broken up nice and clearly, and they're not taking the viewer on a wild goose chase to try to find information behind certain links and URLs. It's just nice, clean, and very, very easy to follow. So if you want to research more about Hedera, I've made a previous video on Hedera Hashgraph, and I'm also coming out with another one, a breakdown on the ecosystem side of it and the tokenomics side of it, whereas that first one was more so touching towards the technicals. But again, I think you guys should listen to it and watch it, because we're not talking about another blockchain here. We're talking about a hash graph. This is a really, really important DLT that we haven't seen in the ecosystem. I mean, it's only recently been able to be licensed, so under an Apache 2.0 license. Pretty much mean it's now open source, but for the longest time it was actually under a patent. So again, it's the only one in the ecosystem, guys. So do some more research, okay? Now, time for my price prediction. This is the most important thing that a lot of people get wrong. It's basic supply and demand, guys. There's no reason to overcomplicate this, okay? We learned this all in high school, okay? So supply and demand. Well, supply is easy enough to find, right? We just go on the vesting schedule and we find what the supply will be at a certain time, give or take if there's transaction fees, burn fees. And demand, this is the hard part, but I can summarize it quite easily. We just need to find the future market cap. Now, to find that, there's so many variables we can look at, and that's a pretty much endless list. So to simplify it, what I tell any of my viewers, any of my active viewers or Patreon members, it's simple, okay? So I throw a 2x on the top of promising large cap projects. That was projects $1 billion over in terms of their market cap at the previous all-time high or the previous bull market. And for the small to mid cap projects, only a 4x, okay? But they have to be promising. Now, obviously, it does depend on, roadmap events. In this case, sharding is being implemented, all types of online defensibility options, network effects, for example, embedding. Lots of these different aspects go into this, guys, more than you can possibly imagine. So to keep it nice and simple and to be conservative, which is what I like to do, I'm going to throw a 2x on top for Hedera. Okay, so 2x on top of its previous all-time high market cap, which is going to put the future market cap at about $13 billion, more or less, okay? So $13 billion, it's probably going to go well and truly beyond that, if I'm being quite honest with you. It all depends on when sharding is implemented. But nevertheless, guys, this is more of a long-term play. So let's keep it nice and conservative and say 13 billion, all right? So that, if we were to use the current supply, would put the token price at about 95 cents. However, accounting for supply, which is about a 66% increase in liquid tokens from now, the current 15 billion HBAR tokens, to the future, about January 2025 liquid tokens, which will be 25 billion, again, a 66% increase, we can assume that the conservative price, based on these two aspects, is about a 63 cent HBAR figure. Okay, so that's every HBAR is 63 cents. Considering the current price is only 6.5 cents, I mean, look, guys, that's quite good. That's about a 10x. You might be thinking to me, Kyron, a 10x, oh my God. Guys, Hedera is a promising protocol. I'd be surprised if the protocol doesn't make around a 30, 40 plus X. I would be surprised if it doesn't at least hit $1, okay? But again, this is a number I want you to remember. I'm not shilling you here, just so you can take at least your initial investment out, make guaranteed returns, and hell, ride the ladder up to however much you want. Obviously, don't try to time the top, because you'll always have people trying to beat you towards it. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, guys. I wanted to introduce you to Hedera. It's a very promising project. I give it a 10 out of 10. I'm looking forward to sharding. I'm looking forward to what this protocol can do in the future, and I think a lot of other people are as well. So that's all I have to say in this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my video tomorrow. Goodbye.